Um, Good evening. I'm Amy Zaptakis. I'll start the January 8th Planning, Zoning, and Housing meeting. Since this is our first meeting of the new term, the first thing I wanted to do was go around and have everyone introduce themselves. And if you can just sort of, obviously say your name, your district, what your involvement with the RTM has been to date, and a little bit about what you're interested in as far as planning, zoning, and housing. One of the things I want to try to do this year is, both with what work we need to do for the RTM, but also, like, I'm going to try to do some presentations, so if there are things that people are particularly interested in, I want to make sure we're doing that sort of thing. I am hoping to have Francis Pickering come back in probably in March. He was the one who talked to us about the housing legislation, so things like that. So I guess I'll start, since I'm already talking. I am Amy Zaptakis. I've been on the RTM, I think this is my 5th year now. I've been on planning, zoning, and housing every year, and I've been chair for 4 years. And I'm in District 5, and one of the reasons I wanted to get involved with Planning, Zoning, and Housing Committee of the RTM is I am by trade a zoning and real estate attorney in Darien, so I've been involved with this from the other side, so it's been super interesting to me to be on the government side of things. And I like working. We're very lucky in the town of Darien. We have a great staff in this building, so it's nice to be on this side and be able to support them as well. So that's a little bit about me. We'll let you go last since you just
Thank you.
Go Valley.
Hi, Dan Coonan, District 4. This is my 2nd year on the RTM. I was Education Committee, as we were talking about earlier. And I had signed up for Planning, Zoning, and Housing, so I'm glad to get swapped over this year. The reason that, or the things that I'm interested in, I lived in London for 10 years, and I lived in East London, and they were doing all the redevelopment around for the Olympics, and putting in new train lines and infrastructure development, and it kind of just really fascinated me what was happening there. And then I moved from there to a small town that was going through a whole bunch of development, and I was kind of following it in the same way. I know a lot of people do, but I kind of geek out on a little bit, so wanted to get a little bit closer to the decisions that were made for this town. And I've got 3 kids in the town, in the school district, and what the future of the town looks like. Cool. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Cindy Torres. I'm in District 3. This will be my 2nd year on the RTM. I was caucused in for a year before, and I've been a homeowner in town for 9 years. I'm originally from Stanford. I've always kind of been interested in homes and housing and similar type of situation where Stanford, as blowing up, as we know, and it's very overwhelming. So it's really nice to be involved in town here and see how we can balance out development with also keeping the charm. And it's been great, and I've been learning a lot from everyone and our chair, so thank you.
Tom Moore, District 3. Been on the RTM for 31 years. Got involved because of construction on the middle school. I like being involved in the town. I've been on all the committees except for finance. I can't do that because of my position at work. And the Board of Ed because it's just too many meetings. way difficult. Now there's fire trucks that are coming due after 30 years, and I've been the one that voted for those fire trucks. So I really enjoy being involved in the town. So
yeah. That's great.
Mike Wheeler, District 2. This is my 10th year on the RTM and my 6th year on Planning, Zoning, and Housing after 4 years on Public Works. And as we look at introducing more affordable housing, one of my areas of interest is workforce housing, which is, I think, very needed in Darien, so that people who work here can live here, particularly in town government, firefighters, teachers, things like that.
Michael Cassillo, also District 2. I have been Darien resident for 35 years. Lived in the middle of that, lived in Northern California for about 10. But was on the RTM when I first moved to town for 1 year. Then I was on the Education Committee. Then I was on the Board of Ed for 3 years. Then I left for a couple of years, or just left town government, When I went back on the RTM, I went on Park and Rec. Then moved to California, and then when we came back, I've been on PZ&H pretty much the whole time I've been back. I think the whole time, so 6 or 7 years on the committee now. And I grew up in Norwalk, so I'm from the area. I'm an architect by training and corporate real estate person by practice, and my interest has been in, similar to Mike's actually, workforce housing and just thinking about the overall plan for development for the town.
Same, Priscilla Wong, District 1. I think this is my 6th year this go around. I was on the early 2000s for, I don't know, 6 years then too. I'm not sure what. I was on education then with Lois. And did TGS&A when I started this round for a year, and now I've just been on PZ&H. Similar, when you've lived here this long, you have a history, and so you see how things have changed and what has worked and what hasn't worked. And so I think I bring a good perspective to this particular committee.
I'm Morgan Whittier, District 4. This is my 4th term, but none of them were consecutive. So I've been on about 10 years total. In between, I served on the Board of Education for 9 years. And the committees I've served on, almost all of them, except education actually, which is interesting, I suppose. But Public Works, Park and Rec, TGS&A, and this, and F&B. So I've lived in town for about 35 years, and PZ&H is interesting to me because as a former commercial property owner, I'm very interested in the development in town for a number of reasons. But as a couple of people have started to bring up more, I think the housing situation in town, I think, is extremely important to all of us. Whether you don't want it or you do want it, it's a very important topic. And I think if cooler heads can prevail, we can reach some sort of mutual understanding that satisfies everybody, whether it's some sort of development around the train stations and not in your backyard, but let's see what we come up with. But I think it's important for all of us to be very, very keen on that in the next couple of years. So whatever we can do in this community, I think would be helpful.
Dan Guller, District 4. Been on the RTM, this is my 5th year, only on PZ&H. I joined PZ&H because it was the only committee available, taking all the others. So, but
then you came back.
Then I kept coming back. We bought Great Island, and that was very interesting to me, that whole process, and getting to kind of see some of the inner workings of that that you wouldn't see as an RTM member that's not on the committee. I'm interested in as Great Island progresses, as well as cutting through the noise and getting to the real world ramifications of the new housing bill. So I'd be interested to hear more about that. My husband and I moved here 16 years ago. We have a son at Hindley who is in 2nd grade, and a dog who's dragging along and almost 17 years old.
Which one's the lie?
Next.
Vinnie Ardenbell, District 2. We're well represented, aren't we? And yeah. So I think this is about my 10th year in the RTM, Parks and Rec, Public Works, and now this one. No agenda.
Well, good to have you here anyway.
Yeah.
I'm Jane Matthews, District 5. I have no experience on the RTM. I just got on in November.
Welcome.
Thank you. I sat for 7 years on the Darien Housing Authority with Joe Warren, when we built both of the affordable housing projects here in town. I live in the affordable housing at the Heights, so my biggest concern and issue is affordable housing and what is or is not affordable housing in town. And how do we sustain that? How do we keep senior citizens like me here who pay taxes, don't abuse the system with children? And I don't mean abuse the system, but you know what I mean. Yeah. So my interest is primarily in the affordable housing program and what does that really mean, and how do we develop more of it without compromising the town, the beautifulness, the wonderfulness that we have in town. How do we keep Darien the way it is, but bring in diversity, bring in new people and new things. So anyway, that's my history.
I'm Lois Schneider. This is going to be my 50th year living in Darien. When people say, where are you from? I always go, New York. And wait a minute, it's really Connecticut. I've been on the RTM, I think about 27 years, about 17 education. I was chair of the education committee for a number of years. And then I was on public health and safety for about 10 years. And now I'm here, and I'm interested in the relationship between the state and the town, and all the implications of how we survive whatever gets done in Hartford, or what we can influence. Not that I understand how you do that, but I think it's an important part in what goes on, and I know everybody that's active in town and the senior leadership pays a lot of attention to that, so that fascinates me.
Great, hi. Good evening, Bill Clarkson. I'm District 1. This is my third year on RTM. I was on public health and safety for 2, and happy to be here. Very, I guess, was there a question?
What's your interest in PZ&H?
Oh,
like,
right.
What brings you here?
So I have been in the commercial real estate industry for 21 years and have a background in commercial real estate and in finance in that area, so I thought that some of those skills could be applicable certainly to PZ&H, but more broadly, growth and community development certainly been an area of interest for me professionally, and obviously with all the care that I have for this town. And moving here about 8 years ago. I have a younger family, and it's been wonderful to be part of the community and see what a great town this is. So certainly I have a very vested interest in ensuring that continues.
Great. Well, thank you very much, and thank you everybody for giving a little bit about yourselves. I think it's nice. We definitely have some diverse perspectives, diverse interests, and as I mentioned before everyone came in, we are actually the largest committee, so we will have 3 people from a number of different districts, so we're pretty well represented, but that's good. I want to talk a little bit about the role of the PZ&H committee, and this is a little bit of a repeat for those of you who've been here before, but I think it's important to kind of restate annually, which is there is sometimes, and I say this because when people know you're on PZ&H, you will hear from members in the community who will ask you why we're not voting against a certain project or something of that nature. And we vote on the things the RTM votes on, which is not an individual project in town. That's the Planning and Zoning Commission. We have, unlike some of the other committees I know sort of have more of an interactive relationship with, like I think the Parks and Recs Committee has more of an interactive relationship with Parks and Rec Commission. We really have just about no interaction with the Planning and Zoning Commission. They vote to approve things or not approve individual projects, and we have no oversight over that. What we do have oversight over is the Planning and Zoning Department and over land purchases by the town, and then certain ordinances and changes, particularly where there's statutory authority given to us. But where I think we can be kind of helpful, which is beyond the scope of our job as RTM members, is one, it's been talked about, I think John mentioned it in his Day of the Town, there isn't really an active press in this town right now. getting information out to the RTM is sort of the largest body where we can get information out. So it's important for us to kind of know what's going on and be a source of information for our constituents in our district. And we can also bring stuff back to both the leadership at the town, the state level, and even the Planning and Zoning Commission in terms of what people are looking for and need in the town. One thing I want to see us be as involved as possible with is the Plan of Conservation and Development, which the Planning and Zoning Commission will be voting on this coming year. We do not, in some towns, there is a process by which the Plan of Conservation and Development is approved by, like the town council in New Canaan. In Darien, because of the way that we're structured, we do not vote on the Plan of Conservation and Development. It is solely voted on by the Planning and Zoning Commission. That doesn't mean, though, that our input isn't needed and valuable to them. So you'll continue to get emails from me when they're having meetings about Planning and Conservation and Development. We need to pay attention, and if we need to, as a group, if you need me to send a report to them about things that we're concerned about or things that are happening, we should be doing that. I'm also going to bring in, I think in March will be the meeting based on the back and forth I've had with him, Francis Pickering, who's the West Cog representative. So for those of you that don't know, we've got, West Cog is sort of is the council of government, so it's sort of the western, southwestern Connecticut, that's our sort of, I don't know, I guess it's all of the towns in this area kind of work together on certain things. And the housing bill is going to have a lot of stuff going through the COG. So he has been paying a lot of attention to this legislation. He came to our committee last term, talked to us about what he thought was going to happen with the housing legislation. And now that everything's been passed, he's going to I'm hoping to have him come in and talk to us about what it means real world for us. And there will be some changes to the zoning regulations, as well as some things that I think are going to need to come before the RTM in the next year or so related to that housing legislation. But I also think that to the extent that we have thoughts on housing development, et cetera, we have a good opportunity as a group to report things to, whether it's the First Selectman's office, to the RTM as a whole. So if there are things that you're interested in or concerned about, I want you to bring them to me, and we've got, every meeting has any other business. If there are things that people want to make sure we address as a group, please feel free to use that time. So I think that's about all of my kind of introductory stuff. Any questions about any of that? Okay. All right, so agenda-wise, there are two things that are on our agenda for potentially reporting to the RTM. The first of those was the Eversource easement request. If you watched the Board of Selectmen meeting on Monday, which you might not have because it was just Monday, they actually postponed voting on that. But I still wanted to bring it in front of us tonight to kind of introduce it, because it will come back next month, and also to get feedback from you all if there were any other changes based on your review of the easement that we want to bring to Town Council to take to Eversource, because they are working on making some changes. So hopefully everyone saw the documentation that I emailed out, but basically what this is if everyone knows where Parklands is, right, where the two buildings are. And so one of those buildings is now, it used to be two office buildings, one of them is now a assisted living, and the other is going to be turned into an apartment complex. The road that goes down beside the two buildings and then leads into Dunlap Preserve, which is the partially land trust owned, partially town owned, the road is town owned. But it's not a town road. It's not maintained by the town currently, and it's not a public street. When you have public streets, Eversource has a right to run poles alongside the street. That's sort of I think it's by statute. But when they're private roads, Eversource has to have an easement for their services. Now, everyone knows Eversource is everywhere. We've got poles everywhere. We don't always have easements. Eversource is trying very hard to clean up their lack of easements. So it's sort of interesting, because this area where they're asking for easement, they already have poles running down there, but they don't have an easement right now. So what the reason that the town is pushing back a little bit more, and why we're delayed on really voting on the easement, is there's a few things language-wise in the easement that went a little too far, but the other one is, of course, I'm sure a lot of you remember we had the big fight with Eversource a couple of years ago about all the trees that they took down on Little Brook. So it's trying to make sure that there is a little more control over their tree removal process. So that's what's being worked on right now, and why it's not ready to be voted on. But ultimately, again, going back to what's the role of the PZ&H, because it is the town granting an easement to Eversource, that's within the scope. It's we will be the sole committee reporting on that, whether or not we agree that the town should grant that easement or not. So that all being said, were there either any questions, or did anyone have any comments on the easement itself, or any of the language that you thought was problematic that you think I should bring back to the folks that are working on it?
Has it ever been
Yeah.
denied? An easement ever been denied by the town?
Well, I think easements for other purposes have been denied, I guess.
I mean, with Eversource.
Yeah. Has Eversource ever been denied an easement by anyone? I mean, you need electric power, right?
Well, that was my next
But if
question
the poles are there already,
Yeah.
but
why
are
do we
those
need to give
wires,
it to them?
is the assisted living connected to those wires, or are those wires to the street below it?
So the assisted living one is the first building. So this is beyond that building.
So does it affect the Parkland's buildings, or does it affect that street below it?
It doesn't affect, no, it's not for the street, it's not,
Okay.
you're talking about Fairmead, no,
Right.
it's not for Fairmead, it's
Okay.
just for these two buildings.
So it would affect directly the new building, it's,
Right, that's why it's being asked for, it's really what it is the new, Eversource told this new building, oh shoot, we don't actually have an easement.
you don't get
You have
electricity.
to get an easement for you guys to have electricity. So if the town were to say no, I imagine they would figure out some other sort of
They would
path.
probably connect from Fairmead up.
Yeah, who knows what direction they would go in, I haven't looked at the maps enough to know, but, it is a little silly, I guess, for them to go a different way when there are the poles there
Right. Do we know how
already.
long poles have been there? I mean, is it already easement by prescription, or have they been there for 30 years?
Well, so Eversource, I'm sure, could probably make that argument, but then it wouldn't be as wide in scope of an easement as, they want, because you're right, I mean, nobody, if you have a pole, nobody's gonna say to Eversource, you can't have it there if it's, been there forever, but
Right.
then what can they do in that area to maintain their electric power? And that's exactly the conflict we have here, right, which is the town doesn't want them to be able to take down all the trees in the area, and of course, if you read the easement, it is, we can consult with you if we're able to maybe,
Yeah.
and then trim and take down trees.
The response in the meeting, the
Mhm.
selectman was really more about the approach and the attitude of Eversource, that this is a fait accompli and you're gonna do this, and even asking for it in different formats, like, no, this is a template, this is what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, this seems like it's something that's going to happen no matter what, right? But it's the way in which the language is
Right.
written, that they have carte blanche to do whatever they want with the trees, which is what the town was in charge of.
Correct,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it is, and I will say this is 100%, this is Eversource's standard template, they use the exact
Yeah.
same one every time, and there are definitely some areas where they will agree to get pushback on. The landscaping is usually not one of them. So, so I think ultimately, it seems to me maybe if I can, I don't know if we want to, we don't need to necessarily vote, but it seems to me like maybe we can report back to the Board of Selectmen that we also feel very strongly that the town needs to have a little more control over the landscaping, and if Eversource really needs to take down as many trees, and then also if they do, what are they gonna do as far as replacements?
Replacement. No, I think that makes sense, Amy, from my perspective.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. All right, anything else that anyone noticed in the documentation that was
That was the only
problematic?
concerning thing from my end.
Okay.
They actually just knocked on my door this past week and were like asking for permission to cut trees. We were like, Peace. Bye. No.
Yep. Yeah, they're aggressive about it, that's for sure. Okay, all right, so I'll report back that we're aligned, so that they know that, because again, it'll go Board of Selectmen and then us to the RTM.
So is it definitely off the agenda for January?
It's definitely on the agenda
Yeah.
for January, yes.
I'll short the meeting.
All right, so then the other item that we'll be reporting on as secondary is the appropriation for a survey for funds for a survey for Great Island. So basically what's going on is, as you all will recall, last term, there was a project to do early access onto Great Island that was voted down by the Board of Finance. Board of Finance said they didn't want it to be a lot smaller. So the town's looking into, the Board of Selectmen, I guess, really is looking into what they can still do to get parking on Great Island, and as a first step, and so ultimately there will be another request that will come to the RTM for more money to do work for this project. This is kind of the first piece of it that they want to get started now is a full topographical survey of not all of Great Island, but that sort of main area where there was discussion of doing any development work, so that they know exactly what they're working with as they move forward. Based on the conversations at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, they've been told that if they wait to do the survey work until we are ready to move forward with full appropriation, it could push out the timeline of getting parking onto Great Island by as much as 2 months. So that's the reason this is kind of coming up to us a little bit piecemeal. I know, as everyone knows, of course, we have surveys of Great Island, but they're not with the level of detail that this survey would be. They've been done based just mostly on publicly available maps and not the level of topography that they're going to need for construction moving forward. So that's kind of the summary of what's being asked for. Yeah.
Just 2 months? That's, I mean.
As far as.
Why bother if it's only just 2 months?
They said that they'd have to do the survey, they'd have to do it regardless.
The survey
Yeah,
has
they're
to,
gonna have to do it regardless.
they can't do construction without the survey.
It could influence whether or not they'll be parking in the summer of '27.
Right.
Yeah.
Without the 2 months, it could be in the fourth quarter of '27 before there would be parking.
Well, I like walking it without any.
Can't park at Pear Tree either. Right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm local, I walk.
Yeah.
I walk.
Well, we'll park at your house.
I walk
Parking
from
at
home.
Vinnie's house.
Oh, I like it, that's
How
our
many extra
solution.
spots do you have for us?
I'll report that to the whole RTM. Oh, we're all gonna park in South.
Tell your constituents.
Suddenly it sounds like somebody does have an agenda.
So it's 27,000, is
Yeah.
that?
Yes.
They didn't really talk about if that was an extra 27,000 or if the survey would have been included in the other RFP work.
It would have been included in that, the money that they had asked for previously did include payment to Redness and Mead, who's the surveyor. So yes, that was,
Yeah, but for the overall project, so they didn't really explain in that hearing that they pulled out exactly what that would have cost them, and it was $27,000. Or is this an extra $27,000?
Or is it a subset of something bigger?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
we're just gonna pay, there's $100 somewhere, we're gonna spend 5 of it now, which means there's 95 left to do something later? Or is it something
this is the full.
incremental?
The full bill for all of Redness and Mead's work. But the work to design the roadways and the parking is separate.
Right.
But if
So
this
that will be an
survey is
additional.
done, then
Mhm.
that's done and it can be used for the secondary thing.
Correct.
They're not gonna
Yes.
do it again,
Does not
or
expire.
have to redo it, or
Yeah, no, that
put more
should
money
happen.
into it.
Yeah.
But
No,
you're asking if this survey covers the entire island, right?
No.
Or just the
No,
parking?
no, no,
You
just this,
understand?
just this,
Okay.
just
Yeah,
this.
and yeah, it definitely doesn't cover the whole island, but it does cover most of the area where we would be doing anything. You know, it definitely doesn't cover where the bridle trail area is, but that area is it seems gonna be kept
And did we
totally.
vote on this already as an RTM, this section of money?
No, so this committee voted on the larger project.
The one the
and we-
Board of Finance turned down.
Correct. We voted in favor of the larger project, and then it never went to the full RTM because the Board of Finance voted it down.
Okay.
This particular appropriation has already, so that we're not going through the same little circle again, has been approved already by Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. So we're now, this is the last step.
So if, what the other option is, we wait for, like, what do we wait for? Was this gonna come down the road, what you said, in a further package?
So there will be, so to Priscilla's question, there will later be a plan, because again, the Board of Finance turned down the larger plan. I think it seems from what I'm hearing, it had a lot to do with the fact that there was a fancy bathroom building.
Yeah.
So I think that, from my impression, I don't know, I'm not involved in the conversation, so just, take this all with a grain of salt, is that they're gonna come back with a new plan that's just parking and will continue using porta potties. So that project, the appropriation for that project is going to still come to the RTM. And I would expect in sort of a two-phase, one for the design phase and one for the construction phase. So we could, if we say no to this, to the 27,000 now, it will be, the 27 will be in the next phase, which is the design phase. It just then pushes, it's a timing thing, and then it pushes the whole project out. So that's what would happen if we denied it. And again, we could then deny the next one also, but if we deny this, it'll come back to us in a few
It would
months.
seem to make sense to get the parking in as.
So what is the vote we need to
use
take
the
tonight,
property.
Amy?
Yeah. So we need to vote whether we're in support of this resolution.
So would you like a motion?
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve it.
I will second Tom's motion.
Okay. All in favor? All opposed? All right. And just so I can, for the report, you just don't think we need to do it now, it's, might as well wait
2
until it all
months, what's the big deal?
makes sense. Okay, understood. I want to make sure I give a minority report as well as a majority, so.
Very minor.
I won't name names, don't worry. Although it's a public meeting, so I don't know why that makes any difference. All right, so that is everything that I have on our agenda. I have any other business? Anything? No?
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Good night, all.
Thank you.
I'll say that.